Italy. We had the conference, and we move the conference every year. We'll go from we do an international year, and this summer is supposed to be our international year. We're supposed to be going to Peru this year, and it remains to be seen whether that will happen or not. So fingers crossed. And then next year we will go to the west coast of the United States somewhere, and then the year after that we will have it somewhere on the east coast of the United States. Anyway, welcome to my presentation on Operation Smile. Operation Smile is the world's largest volunteer-based medical nonprofit, and we go around the world and provide free surgeries primarily to children who have cleft lip and cleft palate. We will work with, however, any patient that has a cleft condition. It just turns out that most of our patients are children. And we'll talk more about different kinds of clefts in a minute, but this little girl here has what's called a bilateral cleft. So that's an opening on both sides of the lip. And we go and we repair that for free. And amazingly, the average cleft lip surgery takes about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour for a plastic surgeon to perform that surgery to completely close up that cleft. And the average cost for Operation Smile to fund the cleft surgery is about $240. A cleft palate surgery takes about an hour and a half on general, about double the time of a cleft lip. And it is it can be life-saving for these patients, and it is certainly life-transforming for our patients. We envision a future where health and dignity are improved through safe surgery. And dignity is a very important word there. Our patients, and you can appreciate by looking at this picture, you can understand some of the challenges that someone would face as the result of having a cleft. If you have a cleft lip, babies, this can be a fatal condition in babies. When babies are born, their primary form of sustenance is to breastfeed and to drink milk. And you can imagine, and that is entirely reliant on being able to create suction to breastfeed. And if a baby has openings in their lip like that, just the air movement and all of that, it would probably be nearly impossible to create suction. Eating and drinking are serious issues for our patients. And as a result, and with babies as well, and we'll jump ahead. This is a little slide that the reason I want you to see this one is you'll look up in the upper right where it says bilateral cleft lip. That's what you just saw on that little girl. Your palate is the roof of your mouth. So if you run your tongue along the roof of your mouth, just like that, there's a line that goes down the center of the roof of your mouth. That you're touching your palate when you do that. And patients that have cleft palates, it's literally, and you look at that bottom right picture, that's a bilateral cleft lip in combination with a cleft palate. A cleft palate is literally an opening on the roof of your mouth. And you can appreciate that, when we're talking about children eating, infants eating, or drinking milk for that matter, if it's right above the roof of your mouth is your sinuses. And if you're able to feed a baby milk and they're able to get that milk, it's going to go right up through that hole in the roof of their mouth and come out of their sinuses. So malnutrition is a huge problem for infants with cleft conditions. And again, it can be fatal. And that issue does not go away if children live past infancy. So our patients have a really difficult time eating and drinking. They have a difficult time breathing. You can appreciate that, sometimes when you're just sitting idly, you don't always breathe through your mouth. Sometimes you close your mouth and breathe through your nose. And you can appreciate, that this little girl, she can't close her mouth and just breathe through her nose. She'll have unique airflow all going through just because of those openings. So breathing is a challenge. Speaking is a challenge. I tell people all the time when I talk to student groups, you look at that, again, that bottom right picture or the bottom left picture that just shows a cleft palate. Pay attention when you're speaking. Your tongue, particularly when you make that T sound, tongue, T, T. When you make that T sound, your tongue touches the roof of your mouth. Our tongues constantly touch the roof of our mouth in order for us to make speech. So children or patients that have an opening on the roof of their mouth, they never learn to speak correctly because of that. So speech is a big issue. And then back to this slide that talks about dignity. Aside from all of those physical challenges that are created through having clefts, Operation Smile goes into developing countries, basically into countries that just do not have the resources, opportunities, a lot of things that we have here in the United States. One of the big things that they don't have is access to healthcare in these poor communities in developing countries. As a result of that, people just in general don't have the basic knowledge of health and wellness that you and I have. So they don't understand why kids are born with clefts, and they're scared of these kids, and they treat them very poorly most of the time. We go into plenty of communities where people are afraid that these children have been cursed in some way, or that they're contagious, and they just don't understand. And as a result, they don't want to be around these kids, so they treat them very poorly. These children are outcast from their communities. Their parents hide them at home. Most of our patients do not go to school, and it is a very sad life that they live on top of all of those physical challenges that they face. Enter Operation Smile into the picture, and we provide these life-saving and life-changing surgeries to these kids. And again, just to go back to that number, it averages $240 to our organization to provide one of these surgeries, and can take as little as 45 minutes to change a life. This is a neat picture. I just want to really quickly show you all of us when we were growing babies, when we were developing in the womb, we all had a bilateral cleft lip and a cleft palate. Our jaw, your upper jaw started out open, and at 14 weeks of fetal development, the palate, the lip, and the jaw all close. And it's a fascinating thing. When you touch the roof of your mouth, like we talked about a minute ago, that line going down the center of the roof of your mouth is where your palate closed. This little ridge that's in between your lip and your nose, that little dent right there, that's where your upper jaw and everything came together at 14 weeks of fetal development. This is a really cool video that a plastic surgeon named Dr. Goldwasser, he's one of our surgeons, and he's also a professor at UNC. He put this together, and what you're seeing here is this illustrates an embryo turning into a human face. So check this out. Just amazing. All right, so now that you've seen that, I want to watch it again and just kind of point out some really interesting parts of this. So you'll notice kind of in the middle, I thought that when I first saw this, that the round spots in the middle were going to be the eyes. Your eyes literally started out on the side of your head, and your ears kind of started out on your neck, and they come up as your face is forming. And you see the big black gap in the middle. That is the mouth, obviously. And you can see right, pretty much, ooh, how do I pause it? Shoot. Right about here, you can see those eyes are coming from the side of the head where they're forming, and you see the ears kind of forming down below the mouth. I think that is just fascinating. But you'll see here where the nose is forming that there are clefts in between the mouth and the nose. Whoops, I don't know how I just did that. I don't know if that zoomed for you guys. Oh, here we go. Shoot. But you see, that's a bilateral cleft. And then, right around here, you see it all starting to close. So my guess is that's right around 14 weeks of fetal development. Those clefts had closed. You can still see actually kind of in the upper jaw, right under the nose. And really you see there, oh shoot. Anyway, it's just fascinating that we were all born with clefts. And these kids that have this condition, Their faces just stopped growing. It just didn't all come together the right way. There's a number of reasons this can occur. A lot of if you know if there's a history of it in a family, if it's genetic, then that can be a huge factor in kids having a cleft. But it can be nutrition, lack of proper nutrition. There's so many countries where, people that are living in poverty in these countries, they don't get to go to the grocery store and buy, a lot of different types of foods and have a balanced diet. People, for example, in Malawi that live in poverty, 90% of what they eat is like a porridge substance. So they're not getting proper nutrition. And obviously, whatever a mother is eating when she's pregnant is what's passed along to a baby. The lack of proper nutrition can play a factor. And there's a number of other things. This is a neat picture. When we talk about kids' lives being saved, this little baby is 16 days old and was brought into an Operation Smile mission in Nicaragua. And this mom was in despair. She couldn't feed this baby like we talked about. The baby was not eating. And this baby was going to die. This baby was too young to get surgery. We generally will not operate on a cleft lip until a baby is 6 months old, and we won't do a palate until a baby is a year old. We play it very safe with our patients. So what our team did is, you can see this prosthetic device that is on the roof of that child's mouth that is closing that cleft lip and actually enters into the mouth and closes the cleft palate as well. They fashioned that, customized that for that baby at the mission site so it would fit, and you could see this baby drinking out of a bottle for the first time. Saved this child's life. And then when this baby turned 6 months old, she got surgery. So just amazing stuff. And here is why we do what we do. Billions of people, billions, right now in the world living today, lack access to surgical care. This is it. These are the people who are living in poverty in developing countries. You see that stat at the bottom. Only 6.3% of surgical procedures go to the poorest third of the population every year. What that means is, if you live in poverty in a developing country, the likelihood of you being able to access any kind of surgical care is slim to none.
Cindy, I need you to unmute.
Oh, there's a 95% chance that you're not going to get surgical care. Not a very good statistic. And that's why we do our work. This is Dr. McGee. We call him Doc, and his wife, Kathy. And, really the history of Operation Smile, when Doc was a young doctor, he was doing what's called a residency, which is kind of the last step after medical school before you become a doctor. You work under the care of more experienced doctors. Well, the doctor group he was working with took their young resident doctors to the Philippines, all the way over on the other side of the world. One of the things you'll find is that just, restrictions on hospitals and surgeries and things in other countries, particularly developing countries, are a lot more relaxed than they are in the United States. In the United States, resident doctors are not allowed to perform surgeries. You can't perform a surgery until you're licensed. In the Philippines, they can perform surgeries. So this doctor group took their young doctors over to the Philippines really to practice so they could get real world experience doing surgeries. Doc is what's called a craniofacial plastic surgeon. So just like it sounds, he does work on people's heads and their faces. They went over to the Philippines. They got medical supplies donated, and they had enough supplies to do 40 surgeries. Excuse me. When they got to the Philippines, hundreds of families came to their mission site with children who had clefts. And these guys only had enough supplies to do 40 surgeries. And they weren't a nonprofit. They were, again, just going to practice surgeries. So they had to turn most of these kids away. And it was a life-changing moment for Dr. McGee. He knew when he was there that he was going to go back because they were turning all these kids away. And he came back to the United States. Doc and Kathy have 5 children, and they literally started sitting around, and they're from Norfolk. I mean, this all started here. They started writing letters they started sitting around their dinner table at night and writing letters to people in Hampton Roads asking if they would donate money so they could go back. They started asking doctors if they would volunteer their time to go back with them, nurses, anesthesiologists, all of that. And in 1982, they went back to the Philippines to do these surgeries. And it's really interesting. I think that, and it was nothing like it is today. They were just piecing this thing together. I'll bet you on the first mission in 1982, they probably did 40 surgeries. Today, on an average year, we do over 20,000 of these surgeries a year. And since 1982, we've done over 400,000 of these surgeries. So you talk about people that have played a big role in making the world a better place. You're looking at them on this slide. We now do operations in Mexico, all over South America, all over Africa, in some countries in the Middle East, India, China, Thailand, Vietnam, you name it, any place, Madagascar, any place where people are living in poverty, where cleft conditions are prevalent and they don't have access to surgical care. Operation Smile is there performing surgeries to help these people. It's an amazing organization. And this is just another striking statistic. More people die every year from lack of access to safe surgery than from AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria combined. So it is a huge issue in the modern world. And that's why we do what we do. Every 3 minutes, a child is born with a cleft. So it is a big problem in the world. We've not yet figured out a way to prevent it. We're working on that with many different university programs and medical programs. That's ultimately what we want to figure out, is how to make it stop before we have to do these surgeries. But we're not there yet. And that's why it's so important, the work that we do, because every day there's more kids entering the world that have clefts. Really quickly, I'm just going to run you through some slides that I think it's nice to get of who we're helping, and to see their faces and to see a little bit about where they live. So I'm going to show you some kids and where they live. This is a little girl, as you can see, her name is Asine, and she lives in Ghana. And you can see she's holding a picture of herself before she had surgery. And if you look really closely, a lot of times you'll see a tiny little scar where that child has had surgery, and you can see it kind of on the left side of her upper lip, but you can't really tell. It's amazing work our surgeons do. But this is a scene before and after surgery, and this is where she lives with her mom. And I oftentimes ask, particularly elementary school students, we'll have dialogue about this picture of, what do you see? I mean, you can see she has a very simple house, not anything like a house we would be used to living in the United States. I do see above that house, it looks like there's some electrical lines. I don't know if there's power going into this house or not. We have a lot of people that we work with who don't have access to electricity, but you can certainly see that Asine's house is probably nothing like your house. This is a little girl named Emmanuel who lives in Brazil. I love this picture because you can see that that picture of her gum, instead of it facing east to west, it's facing north to south. And it's almost like, when we talked about before that the gum line and the upper jaw coming together, it's almost like hers just stopped, like coming over and just stop right here. I love that picture because it really illustrates that. This is where Emmanuel lives in Brazil. You can see that's a pretty rundown looking neighborhood. You don't see any cars. Does look like they have electricity for sure. And this is Emmanuel after surgery, and just what an amazing transition that is. This is Samuel, who lives in Ghana. He has a pretty minor cleft. This is just striking to me. You can see Samuel, this is him walking through his neighborhood, and he obviously is living far below the poverty line. That's Samuel walking with his dad, and this is Samuel after he's had his surgery, and what a handsome young man he is. This is a patient named Enoch, and I just love, this is one of my favorite stories. But when we talk about over 400,000 surgeries that Operation Smile has done since 1982, it's 400,000 stories like this, of lives that have been completely changed. But Enoch lives in Rwanda. He works in a bakery, which is where you see him here. Enoch was 25 when we found him, and we will send out we'll have what are called patient recruitment missions, where we send volunteers out into the world to look for patients. And they, because, people that don't have electricity, there's no newspaper coming to Enoch's door. There's no TV commercial. How do we find these people? How do they know we exist? A lot of times we have to physically send people out to look for patients. We found Enoch on a patient recruitment mission. At 25 years old, he had never been to the doctor. He had no comfort with going to get surgery. We had to talk him into going to get surgery. He tells in his story about how he would every morning wake up and try to cut through gardens and backyards and alleys any way he could to stay out of sight when he went to work. Because when people saw him, they would say horrible things to him and just be nasty to him. And he lived a life of solitude. People did not want to be around Enoch. We talked him into going to get surgery. On the day of his surgery, he did not show up to the hospital. And they went back to his town and they found him and they said, why didn't you come? And Enoch said that he was too embarrassed that his clothes weren't nice enough to wear to the hospital. So he just, all in all, lived a life of shame. He felt ashamed of himself in every way. We got him to the hospital to get his surgery. They asked Enoch, here's a picture of him before and after. I mean, you could see just the amazing work there. They asked Enoch before he got that surgery what his greatest hope was in life after having the surgery. And it chokes me up every time I talk about it. Enoch said that he hoped one day he would be able to kiss a girl. That was something that was never going to be possible to him. Today, Enoch is married. He has a son. He has a whole new life as the result of this surgery. And the most striking thing about these pictures to me is if you just look at his eyes, and you can see in the picture before Enoch has had that surgery, there is no light in his face. That's a sad man. And he just looks like the nicest, happiest person now. Anyway, it's a beautiful story, and there are 400,000 like beautiful stories like Enoch's. So one of the unique things to Operation Smiles, we have student clubs around the world from elementary schools through universities. We have a wonderful club at Lansdowne High School, and I'll give you some information about that in a minute. There are wonderful opportunities available to students who are involved in Operation Smile clubs. Our organization truly believes, and it's the truth. I mean, there's no denying it, that youth is the future of taking care of these children. One day, when all the staff of Operation Smile is going to be old and gone one day, and more people will need to come in. And if we can get young people involved now, then they will understand it and be able to really step in and carry the torch and continue to care for these children. One of the roles, students who are very involved and passionate about being involved in Operation Smile have the opportunity to travel on our medical missions. We generally send 2 high school students out on most of our medical missions. And the role of our high school students, and you can see these girls doing it right here, is to educate the families that come to get their children's surgery. Our students go through a training course called Mission Training Workshop, where they learn how to teach medical modules to these families. And it goes back to what we discussed earlier, where these people just lack the basic information that you and I have about health and wellness. You and I have been going to the doctor since the day we were born. If you're sick at school, you can go to the doctor and they'll help you get better. You can go to Walgreens and pick up some medicine, all that stuff. It's not available to these people. So when our students go on missions, they teach these medical modules and they teach classes on, you see these posters in the background. The mouths on the right are from a class on dental hygiene. You can see in the upper left there's a poster. They teach a class on nutrition. You see in the middle on the top there's the class they teach on burn care. And then I just last year took 2 high school students to India, and we piloted a new program where our students are teaching a class on post-lip and post-palate surgical care. So our students teach the families about how to clean the surgical area, what type of food the child can eat after surgery, all those kinds of things. We teach a class on CPR. And you talk about life-changing and life-saving stuff. These patients and their families that come to this mission site, they leave with the knowledge of CPR, and that can save a life in their community if somebody has a cardiac emergency. These are 2 girls I took to Morocco a couple years ago. Just an amazing story. They met this little girl there named Khadijah, who was 15 years old. And Khadijah's mom told us they had traveled from a place called Senegal, which was very far away. It was like the distance from Texas to Norfolk. And they didn't know how they were going to get home. She had spent all of her money to get her child to Morocco, and to get this surgery. And they were going to walk out of this hospital at the end and just figure out a way to get back home. And it really bothered these girls. And they ended up on this mission, spearheading an effort to kind of get all the volunteers. There are about 80 medical personnel, but everybody pitched in, and we were able, these girls did it. They were able to get plane tickets for Khadijah and her mom back home to Senegal. Just another amazing story that I was able to witness firsthand. This is a picture of the students we had in Seattle 2 years ago at our student leadership conference. We generally have about 400 students from around the world that come to the we call it ISLC, the International Student Leadership Conference, every year. This is open to all of our club members around the world. We generally have about 25 countries represented when we have this conference. If you attend this once, then you're able to apply for our mission training workshop. And these are the students that, you know, it's competitive, but generally about 40 students get accepted a year in a mission training workshop. And all of these students over the past year traveled around the world participating in our medical missions. And you want to talk about life-changing stuff. I tell students all the time, obviously, when you get involved in something like Operation Smile, you know you're going to be doing something wonderful and life-changing for somebody else. But I will promise you, to have hands-on experiences like this, helping other people, the greatest gift will be yours. It will change your life. It will change your heart. It's an amazing thing, and you will carry it forever. I can promise you that. The last thing I will show you, and this is just speaks volumes to me, but 2 years ago, I took 2 students to Guatemala, and we ship all of the medical supplies out from Operation Smile headquarters. And when we were in Guatemala, this is the operating room in the hospital where we were. I mean, you can see back there, there's a window unit air conditioner. And really, all that is in this operating room is that table and a lamp above that table. You go into a hospital room over there at Princess Anne Hospital next to Lansdowne High School, and you go in an operating room there, it's going to be filled with machines, technology, just state-of-the-art equipment, and everything that is needed to perform a number of procedures to help people. This is what people in developing countries have access to, not a lot. And this is why we do what we do. Operation Smile ships out all the supplies. It will all arrive at this mission site. The medical staff will unpack it and set up a legitimate operating room where they do these surgeries. So it's just an amazing thing. You guys have a wonderful club. It's a growing club at Lansdowne High School, and I'm excited for the future of it. I don't know if you can, if you're interested, if you can screenshot this, please do so. There's three girls, Avril Muscan and Trish Rubio, who are working with me very closely this year. They're on what's called my regional leadership council. They're helping me coordinate everything we do in the area. They would be delighted to hear from you if you want to join the Operation Smile Club and get involved. And the teacher sponsor is Miss Palestino, who is also wonderful, and she's been involved for several years. And she would love to hear from you as well. So please screenshot that if you're interested. And I'm easy to get a hold with as well if you need anything from me. But I thank you very much for listening. That's a bunch of information, you know, that speaks volumes about what we do at Operation Smile. And if you need me as well, Mr. Stanley can certainly get in touch with me and put you in touch with me. But I hope you enjoyed the information. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any. And again, we'd love to have you if you want to get involved.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Does anybody in this chat area, do you guys have any questions? Feel free to turn on your mic and ask away.
Okay. Well, listen, you guys all have a wonderful holiday, and I will hope to see you again sometime. And Mr. Stanley, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you as well. And we're going to be sending you some Lansdowne swag, so keep your eyes open.
Can't wait.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody. And again, thank you, Mr. Hansen, for everything you do for Operation Smile and for being with us today.
Anytime.
All right. Have
Take
a good
care.
day.
All right. Bye-bye.